The rain came down in silver sheets against the glass walls of the rooftop cafe, blurring the city lights below. He sat alone by the window, Ethan Cole, the kind of man who made silence look powerful. Everyone knew him, the youngest self-made CEO in the country, a millionaire with a guarded heart, and a father whose eyes only softened when his little girl was around. But tonight, something in his calm composure broke when she appeared, drenched, breathless, clutching her bag like her life depended on it. "Can you pretend to be my date?" she asked. Her voice trembled, her eyes wide with desperate hope. And that right there was how it all began. The question that would ruin his peace, change his life, and teach him what love really meant. She didn't even know his name. All she knew was that she needed a stranger. Someone believable. Someone who could make her ex-fiancé, who was walking in right behind her, believe she'd moved on. Her hair stuck to her face, her cheeks flushed, and her heart drummed against her ribs. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the storm outside. "Just for tonight." Ethan stared at her for a long second. He wasn't used to being asked favors. People asked for investments, interviews, attention, but not this. Something about her eyes, vulnerable but fierce, made him nod before he even thought it through. He stood, shrugged off his jacket, and wrapped it over her shoulders. "All right," he said, his deep voice calm and steady. "Let's make him believe." Her name was Lila Dawson, a struggling event planner with too much heart and too little luck. Her company was on the edge of collapse, her engagement had ended disastrously, and she'd lost almost everything except her stubborn hope. And yet, somehow, she was still standing. Still smiling through tears. Ethan admired that instantly when her ex approached. Ethan slid an arm around her waist like he'd done it 1,000 times. His warmth was grounding, his confidence magnetic. The ex's smug grin faltered. "Didn't expect to see you here, Lila," he sneered. "Well," Ethan said smoothly, looking him dead in the eye, "maybe that's because she upgraded." Lila nearly choked on air. Ethan played the role so naturally that even she began to believe it. They laughed, they shared stories that weren't real, but felt real, and for the first time in months, Lila's smile reached her eyes. When her ex finally walked away, humiliated, Ethan started to pull back. "You don't owe me anything," he said quietly, but she shook her head. "No. I do. Thank you." And she left before he could say anything more. That should have been the end. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. A week later, Ethan was at a charity gala his company sponsored, half out of obligation, half out of guilt for having no social life. And there she was. Lila, in a pale silver dress that shimmered like the night sky. Their eyes met across the crowd. She looked equally surprised and embarrassed. "Oh no," she murmured when he approached. "You're the CEO?" "Guilty," he said, a small smile tugging at his lips. "And you're the event planner I've been hearing about. Apparently, my board loves your work." Her cheeks burned. "If I'd known, I wouldn't have dragged you into my drama." He leaned in slightly. "I'm glad you did." They talked for hours that night. About work, life, love, and the quiet kind of loneliness that came from always being strong. He told her about his daughter, Emma, 5 years old, all laughter and curls, his reason for breathing. She told him about her dream, to build a company that created moments that made people feel seen. They found comfort in each other's honesty, but life wasn't a movie, it didn't pause for perfect timing. Rumors started. The media linked them. Investors questioned Ethan's judgment. And when Lila's struggling business got a sudden boost thanks to their connection, people accused her of using him. She broke down, unable to handle the whispers. "I never wanted this," she cried. "You don't deserve to be dragged down because of me." Ethan looked at her then, not as the CEO, not as the man the world saw, but as someone who finally realized what love looked like when it hurt. "Lila," he said, stepping closer, "you didn't ruin anything. You gave me something I didn't think I'd ever get back. Hope." But Lila couldn't believe that, not yet. She walked away again, determined to prove she could stand on her own. Months passed. She rebuilt her business from the ground up, working tirelessly, creating joy for others while quietly aching inside. Ethan kept his distance but couldn't help watching her from afar, proud and heartbroken all at once. Then one winter morning, she got a call from his assistant. Ethan's company had suffered a massive PR blow after he'd pulled out of a corrupt partnership. He was being painted as reckless, arrogant. Lila didn't hesitate. She showed up at his office, breathless once again, but this time not from fear. "Let me help you," she said. He looked up from his desk, exhaustion etched across his face. "You don't owe me anything, Lila." "I know," she said softly. "But maybe I want to." Together, they planned a public charity gala, not for show, but for change. Lila poured her heart into every detail. The night of the event, Ethan watched her work the room, calm, glowing, confident, and he realized he was already in too deep. When it ended, and the applause faded, he found her standing alone by the balcony, looking at the stars. "Remember that night you asked me to pretend?" he said quietly. She turned, smiling wistfully. "How could I forget?" He stepped closer, his hand brushing hers. "I never stopped pretending." Her breath caught. What do you mean? He looked at her the way a man looks at the one thing he knows he can't live without. I fell in love with you, Lila. Somewhere between pretending and protecting you, it became real. Tears welled in her eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming beauty of the moment. You can't just say things like that, Ethan, she whispered. I know, he said, smiling faintly. But I can mean them. For once, Lila didn't run. She leaned in, closing the distance, and in that soft, trembling kiss, the kind that feels like coming home, the noise of the world disappeared. Months later, she'd be there when Emma called her mommy for the first time. She'd laugh, cry, and thank fate for a night of rain and desperation that led her to love, because sometimes, love doesn't start with destiny. Sometimes, it begins with a simple question asked in a storm, can you pretend to be my date? And sometimes, just sometimes, the answer changes everything.